Hello and welcome to Scrappy Loom Sewing. I'm JC Joellen and today I'm going to show you a technique that I like to call scrap collage applique or scrapliquet. It's very simple, it's lots of fun, and you can do a lot of creative things with it to make some special projects. Here's some samples of appliques. Some applique hearts, you have flower. There's a different type of flower and butterflies. Here are some leaves and tulips. And then a variety of hearts and circles. All of which you can use in quilts, pillows, whatever else you want to put them on. Anything you do with the regular applique, you can do with these. Here's a sample of a wall hanging using this technique for the appliques. Just a really small one, but I love it. And all you need is your template shape. You can do it out of template plastic. Here's what I made the flower with. Here's the butterfly out of template plastic. Or you could just use some cardboard that you find laying around. Cut your shape out of that. So you need your template shapes. You'll need your background fabric. I use muslin because it won't be seen. It'll be covered up, so you don't want to use anything expensive or anything fancy. Muslin's easy to work with and inexpensive. I love muslin. It doesn't matter if it's bleached or unbleached. This just happens to be bleached. And I'm just using a small square. I don't use a big piece. I just make probably about the largest I make is maybe about a 10 by 16. I just work in small increments of fabric. It's just a lot easier. And so you need your background fabric. You need a lightweight adhesive. Stitch Witchery is what I'm using. I love this stuff. It's not backed, but this is a lightweight glue that you heat. It's a webbing, and this one, like I said, is Stitch Witchery. You need that cut just slightly smaller than your background piece. Now the piece I'm using is 9 by 9 inch square, and then the Stitch Witchery is just like 8 3/4 square. And then you need some scrap fabric, and I'm using some yellow squares that I had and some triangles left over from a quilt that I made, just some scrap pieces that were left over from that quilt. And what you would do then is take your pieces of scrap and you'll position them on top of the background and Stitch Witchery. And you want to make sure that your pieces are butted together. You don't want the background to show through. You can overlap just slightly, but I try not to overlap too much because there's another step that comes after this, and sometimes if they're overlapped too much, it creates a problem with the needle. Anyway, just lay them on here in a way that you find attractive. Champion, behave. That's my melon wall over there. Play with this toy. Come here, Champion. Say hi to everybody. Hey, pop up here. This is Champion. My puppy. Okay, you're going to go out here for a minute. Come on. Okay, now I'm back. Anywho, I use a number of shades just to add some variety. Doesn't matter if it goes off of the background a little bit. This one is a little different than the rest, but I'll put it in because it just adds a nice little pop of color. You just keep building until you've got it all covered up. You want to use colors that are pleasing to you. They can be all the same color, different shades of that color, or you can mix it up if you like. An array of colors. Just layer and layer, covering up the background, covering up the muslin, covering up the stitch witchery. I may not have enough pieces here, so if that is the case, I'm just going to make my little project smaller. If I have a lighter fabric, I put it underneath the darker because where it overlaps, because I don't want the fabric to shadow through. The smaller the pieces, the more scrappy it will look. You can use larger pieces if you are doing a larger applique. But the smaller the applique pieces, the applique shapes that you're going to be cutting out, the smaller you want the scraps to be so that you're getting multiple prints in that one piece. Because this is all about the scrappy feel. It's all about feeling scrappy. We got a little bit more to cover up. And then we'll move on to the next step. So I'm getting my iron warming up while I'm finishing this up, so it'll be ready to go when I'm ready for it. Because you will need to press this down. That's the purpose in the adhesive. And I'm covering up any of the light fabrics that are overlapping. I'm covering them up with the dark. You just keep moving until you have covered up the whole piece. And again, you don't want anything peeking through for two reasons. One, it looks better when it's done. Two, you don't want to get the glue on your iron. I'm just cutting that so it'll fit in here where I need it. This one's not gonna stay, I don't think, here. Do it like that. And there you have it. All right, we're all covered up here. I'm just gonna do that there just so I don't get that adhesive on my sewing machine, on my iron board. My iron. Now my iron's warmed up. I'm just gonna take a hot iron over here and I'm just gonna press it down. And you don't want to shift it from side to side or front to back. Just press it down, lift it, move it to the next spot, because you don't want to shift your pieces and end up with them not fully covering the background. Also, if you've taken the time to put them where you want them, you don't want to mess that up either. Now once I've got it all pressed down, then I can shift it from side to side if I want, without it being a problem once they're adhered. Now, what I'm going to do here is go back and lift pieces up, cut this off because this kind of, it's too much. I don't need all that there. And it didn't get adhered down because it was an overlap. And that's okay. This here was hanging off the edge. I'm just going to cut it off. It's going outside of my background piece. Just cut that down. There's another one. Cut that down. If I have any loose pieces, I will either stick another piece of adhesive behind it, or there's some glue, fusible glue that I use. This is called fabric fuse. You just put a little dot behind the fabric that's sticking up, like this one here. Just put a little dot on there, press it down, and press it. Now the reason for that is we're going to go over here to the sewing machine next, and we're going to free motion embroidery. And if you've got pieces sticking up, sometimes the presser foot will go underneath it and you'll get it tangled up. So you want everything flat. It's less of a struggle when it comes time to quilt. Okay. Now that everything is securely pressed down, there's one more. Take it over here to the sewing machine. I would normally let this cool first. And then we're going to bring it over here to the sewing machine. And I've got my sewing machine set up for free motion quilting, which means that I don't use a feed dog. And I can freely move my fabric around in any direction. So you can either start in the middle somewhere where then I'll need to pull my bobbin thread up to the top before I start going. But I'm going to start right off the edge, and then I don't have to do all that. And all I have to do is hold these threads tight so they don't tangle up, and get going. And then I will just free motion quilt on here, going over all of my edges. And I'm using yellow, but you can use another color if you like to add some, dimension to it. Just quilt all over. I got caught in the thread there. Went off the edge there. You're not supposed to do that. Don't do that. Doing a stipple or meandering. Stipple I don't cross over. I just do this all over the thread, all over the background. All over the decorative pieces. Do a lot where the edges are coming together. That way, if you put it into a project that's going to be washed, it's not going to come loose on you. You may get a little bit of fraying, but that's okay. That's part of the beauty of it because it adds to the scrappiness and it adds another dimension to the design. once you've got it all quilted down, I take it to the iron and I press it down just to set the stitches. And you end up with a piece of fabric that looks like this. I'm going to touch this down with a little bit of glue here. Sticking up more than I'd like. I'm going to touch that one down as well. Now if I'd done that before I stitched it, it would have sewn more easily. You just press that down, hold it for a few seconds. And this is what you get. Just a decorated, homemade piece of fabric. Now, you'll take this and you can do it one of two ways. If you have your clear template, you can place it here and you'll know exactly where your color placement is. That's always nice. Or you can do it from the back and trace on the back and then cut the figure out. I just use a pencil. And today I'm going to do it from the front because I want to get this orange piece in here. Now just trace around. Now if you're tracing from the front like this, you'll want to be more careful with the pencil lines because you don't want them to show up on the finished applique. From the back, you don't have to worry about it because that's not going to show. And then you just cut it out. I'm going to save that for other appliques. I'm cutting right on the line. And there you have it, a beautiful butterfly applique. Thank you for joining me, and God bless.